Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning. Oh, man. Are you kidding me? I single-handedly apparently doomed the entire South Central area because I selfishly did not want snow till after Halloween, and I guess this is where I take full responsibility for that. Good morning. It's snowing in the Mat-Su, in case you were wondering, and it's snowing in Anchorage, and the snowpocalypse continues. We're going to talk a little bit about that here this morning on the program and give you the latest and greatest on things that are happening around the state. We'll tell you all about what's going on and what the winter advisories are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also talk to you about the hot news of the day, anything that's up and coming and things that we can discuss this morning and more. Also, of course, we got a lot of things going on on the program this week, which we're going to go over and talk about as well. This morning in hour 2, we'll be joined by David Boyle, who is an education advocate and who's going to come in and talk with us about his latest article in Must Read Alaska, which we touched on last week. Excuse me. And we'll be kind of going over that a little bit more here throughout the program this morning and seeing exactly what it means. What exactly does that mean? And we'll be discussing that here this morning with David Boyle in hour 2 of the big show. Next Monday, I got this solidified anyway. Sarah Montalbano will be with us for Montalbano Mondays. We're going to talk with her about some of the things. We're going to be on this education thing for a while. Because more and more I'm becoming convinced that this is going to be kind of the next, I don't know, what word do I want to use? I guess the word I want to use is battleground. This is going to be the next battleground where we're going to fight for the future of what we've got going on. That's just kind of where we're going. And so I'm going to be focused on this here for the foreseeable future as we go over this. And so look forward to this. Look forward to more and more discussions on education as we go through here on the program here over the next few weeks as we come into the end of the year and head into the legislative session, which is it's 2 months. 2 months from now. It's 2 months and 3 days, I guess, if you want to be exact about it. Legislative session is going to start on January the 16th. January the 16th. Yep. And that is going to be, again, just 2 months and 3 days from now. So not too long in the distant future. We're going to be duking this out all over again. We're going to be facing it. And we're gonna see. I can already tell what what the talking points are. We can already see it in the various conversations that are being had. Some of the opinion pieces we talked a bit last week about the opinion piece in the in the ADN discussing it and how we're leaving our children behind and how the education system is going to collapse and everything else. So we'll cover all those things and see exactly what is going on with that. So anyway, I hope you had a good weekend. The schools in both the Matsu borough and in the Anchorage municipality are both closed for today to in-person learning. It's remote learning for all of those different areas. Power has been flickering on and off. Had a power outage in the middle of the night. How do I know? Well, my CPAP machine stopped and I almost died. So it's the power's been flickering all over the place. All this heavy snow, every tree in my backyard is bent over. It looks like everybody's bowing down to the house right now. And of course, all that snow on all those trees is taking out power lines left and right. So if for some reason you just suddenly lose me today, I apologize. It's not in my control at this point. So just fair warning, if something happens and I just click off and my voice just stop, you know what I mean? Just pay attention. All right. I hope you had a good weekend and I hope you got a lot of stuff done and are ready to go. Let's dive into it. Let's dive into this and get things started. Let's see exactly what is happening. Winter storm warning is now in effect across the state, especially the south central area. For the Anchorage area, that winter storm warning is in effect until at least noon today. Heavy snow, 6 to 9 inches downtown, with up to 12 to 14 inches up on the Anchorage and Eagle River hillsides. It just doesn't get any better than that. Also a winter storm warning for West Prince William Sound, the Western Prince William Sound, where they are expecting not only a huge amount of snow, but also winds gusting up to 50 miles an hour in the Western Prince William Sound area. And then here in the Matsu, again, accumulation of 5 to 9 inches, I guess. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to exaggerate there. 5 to 9 inches. Travel is going to be difficult, although I don't know how it could be even more difficult than what it was this last Thursday, Friday. The hazardous conditions could impact the morning and evening commutes. Highest totals will likely be from Wasilla West, including Knik Goose Bay Road, which is where I live. Hey, thank you so much. And finally, this is Susitna Valley, where the snow is also occurring, total accumulation up to 10 inches. And that's just, this is freaking brutal. Melissa Frey, who's the chief meteorologist over at the Alaska's news source, KTUU, lines it out and says, well, let's see, even before the storm, which started yesterday, even before this storm, this is the deepest snow that South Central has ever had on the ground this early in November. They've already set 3 daily snowfall records in the past 6 days alone. Oh, man, that's all I can say, man. 3, just, oh, man, it's just, oh, my gosh. So anyway, it's going to be interesting, folks. Buckle up for a very, very interesting, very interesting weekend. Or week, I guess I should say, of snow and more. So, all right, let's see what else is going on out here. The Matsu School Board. Oh no, I'm going to wait to get into that one because I want to talk about that here in just a little bit and tie that in with my discussion on homeschooling with David Boyle. So we'll hold on to that one. That heavy snowfall, by the way, is going to create some problems, especially, and I know I'm focusing today more on some of the South Central area than the folks up in the interior or down in Homer, or down in the peninsula, I guess I should say. I always think of Homer when I think of the peninsula. I'm biased. But all that heavy, and it is heavy snow, folks. There is no both my neighbors came to me and we were talking, and they both broke cotter keys on their snow blowers, big old heavy snow blowers. One of them broke them twice. That's how heavy the snow is. He can only take a quarter bite at a time of his intake of his thing. He can only go about a quarter. That's how heavy the snow is. People need to be concerned about their roofs and everything else as the snow accumulates. There was also some rain on Friday, which was nuts. So be paying attention if you live out in the area here and you are seeing some of these effects. You want to make sure that you keep your roof clean and keep all of that squared away as well. The municipality, of course, down in Anchorage is working hard to get the roads cleared, but the ever increasing amounts of snow, and of course with 3 days with setting daily snowfall records for 3 of the last 6 days, they've been working very hard. The problem is the state has not been keeping up, and this is let me tell you, this is what's been interesting, because there's been a big battle. In case you've lived under a rock, between the Mayor David Bronson, and the municipal assembly. And they've been chastising him, and he got really critiqued hard about his snow removal last year and everything else. Well, this year, they're already ahead of schedule. They did all the feeder and the main roads that the municipality is responsible for, and then they had moved into the residential areas. In fact, they did the feeder and the main roads twice because it was snowing so much that by the time they got done, they had to go back to where they started to scrape them down again. They finally got into the residential roads, but the problem is a lot of the main roads in Anchorage are owned by the state. They're not municipal roads, and yet the mayor is getting banged on all this stuff. Part of Diamond Boulevard, part of Tudor, Jewel Lake Road. There's a bunch of roads in there that are and Jewel Lake, by the way, I drove on Friday. It was like driving on the surface of the moon. It rattled. I was going 10 miles an hour and it was rattling my teeth out. That's a state road. That's not a municipal road. Well, on Sunday, the mayor directed the municipal snowplows to go down those roads and clean them. In conjunction, he said he was very in coordination with the state DOT, but apparently the state DOT can't keep up. And it sounds like the mayor was tired of getting blamed for things that weren't he didn't have any. So he's directed the municipal graders and equipment onto the state roads to finish some of that stuff up. So I guess we'll see how it all works out. I won't know today because I'm definitely not driving in today, but we'll see tomorrow what tomorrow looks like. Okay, so that's the winter weather stuff. That's all that stuff tied together, and I think that brings us back to the commercial break. All right, back with more. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based Free Thinking Radio. Like, share, follow, subscribe, do all the things here. We're going to be back with more. David Boyle coming up in hour 2. We'll return right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Well, hello, my friends. Hello, my friends. Hello. I just called to let you know I see forever. You can blame my dad for that. Neil Diamond, and my mom, I guess. Mayor Bronson called Mayor Bachicki and asked him how he did it. Most people in Anchorage I didn't want to delete that comment. I wanted to show it. Most people in Anchorage have no clue as to the patchwork of road maintenance that the Muni and the state have created. If you've ever seen the map, it's astonishing. There's an actual map of the city of Anchorage where the roads are color coordinated, and there are whole swaths of the city that are serviced by state roads that the state is not keeping up on, that they have not. And I swear to God, I made the mistake of going down Jewel Lake Road on Friday. I had a radio station event that I had to get something ready for. So I came off of Diamond and dumped into it, and it was like, okay, I guess Jewel Lake is okay. And so then I drove the other side of it, and my God, it just about rattled the parts off my car. Just astonishing. And that's the way Church Road in Wasilla is the same way I drove on Church on Saturday. I mean, wow. Just, whew. Yeah. Yeah. And of course the power keeps going out and everything else. And, everything on the show here is on battery backup, but it will last just long enough for me to shut everything down and make sure that I tell you guys goodbye. That's how long I got about 10 minutes worth of power. If the power goes out at the house, that will keep most of this stuff on for about 10 minutes for me, just long enough to tell you guys, good night, sweetheart. We'll see you. How do we keep our roads clean on the Gina and Anchorage Anchorage? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, and Anchorage can't figure it out. Well, Jeremy, again, it's not necessarily the problem is that it is a combination of the state and the Muni. The Muni may be doing great. The problem is the state makes the Muni look like they're not doing their job because half the roads are state roads. So, I mean, that's what the mayor was like. Nope, we've directed the thing to do their thing, to go plow the state roads. Glad I filled my bathtubs with water last night. Now we're going to have a power outage, says Trent. Preparedness is not going to do that for you. I definitely feel it. I opened the doors for the dogs this morning and they were like, nope. Back porch has got like 7 inches of snow. They were like, nope, not going to do it. My dad asks, I wonder what the snow in Valdez is doing. Well, let's see. They got 46 inches in Thompson Pass last Wednesday and 65 north of the pass. 65 inches of snow north of the pass. And now they're supposed to get another 10 inches with 50-mile-an-hour winds. I imagine it's probably not going to be great. Just throwing that out there. Probably not going to be great. Mm-mm. Welcome to Alaska. Welcome to Alaska. What else did you guys do this weekend? Did you guys, did you have anything fun? I spent all of Saturday under a car, which I swore I would never do again, but this is my son. I was helping him. I was tired by end of Saturday night, especially after going up and down Church 3 or 4 times. It was crazy. But how was your weekend? Tell me in the chat room how your weekend. You stayed home? Wish I had stayed home all weekend long and done nothing. Put my feet up. Watch my kids shovel the driveway. Why else would I? Go, stay, do your thing. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, follow, subscribe, do everything else. Let's do it. Here we go. Boom. Well, good morning and welcome back. We're continuing now hour one of the big radio show as we continue on with discussions from around the state. I just asked the listeners in the chat room what they did over the weekend. I like Bill's solution. Bill said he worked and made homemade crack, which I saw on Facebook, by the way, Bill, a.k.a. his homemade crack. It's not illegal. It should be. Bourbon caramel corn, which is a bourbon glazed caramel popcorn. Oh, my God. I saw that and I went, ah. It looks so good. David said he drove from Soldotna to Anchorage and back on Saturday. Oh, good Lord, my son. Why would you? Woof. Dang. Oh, man. I'm just glad that I'm glad I spent all day yesterday hanging out with my wife on the couch. We just kind of sat around. We watched old movies. I cracked into my Cary Grant collection, and we watched a couple of old Cary Grant movies, and then she made beer cheese soup, which is just amazing, with fresh pretzels. Oh man, she's an amazing woman. And we just hung out, had a great day yesterday, which was good because Saturday was miserable. But we're ready to face another week and get things done. So here we go. All right. We didn't touch on this last week. It came in pretty late last week. This came in late Thursday, and of course Friday was Firearms Friday. But I thought I would announce this because this is actually some super good news. I was a little bit worried about this. I'll be honest with you. I was a little concerned about what was going on. On Thursday, a federal court judge in Anchorage dismissed 2 challenges against the Willow project, ConocoPhillips's project, saying that the plaintiffs failed to show that the federal government made significant mistakes when it approved the project. This was Judge Sharon Gleason, who had mixed record, as far as I'm concerned anyway, mixed record. And we'll see what happens. Now, the plaintiffs, which include environmental groups and a whole bunch of different, they're all worried about Willow and yada, yada, yada. They already said that they plan to appeal Gleason's verdict to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. In the meanwhile, Gleason's decision means that ConocoPhillips can begin its winter construction season that it was all holding it off. The court's decision confirms our confidence that BLM's review complied with all legal requirements, says Eric Isaacson, who's the president of Conoco. Willow underwent nearly 5 years of rigorous regulatory review and environmental analysis, including extensive public involvement from the communities closest to the project site. We now want to make this project a reality and help Alaskan communities realize the extensive benefits of responsible energy development. A spokesperson for Conoco said by email that about 800 staff and contractors are working on Willow over the winter, and they will build an ice road, set up gravel mining, and work on pipelines that will link Willow to TAPS, Trans-Alaska Pipeline System. This is a fantastic news. Environmental groups fearing the project's impact on greenhouse gas emissions and climate change said they were disappointed while they're marching around in their polyethylene shoes and everything else. Eric Graff, who's the deputy managing attorney for Alaska for Earth Justice, said, while today's ruling is disappointing, we're entirely confident in our claims and plan to appeal to the higher court. Beyond the illegality of Willow's approval, Interior's decision to greenlight the project in the first place moved us in the opposite direction of our national climate goals. These people have no idea where the bread is buttered, do they? I mean, they just really have no freaking idea. The coalitions that filed suit in March this year were similar to those that successfully sued the federal government in 2020, to block the project after Trump administration approved it. Plaintiffs claim that the Bureau of Land Management failed to consider a reasonable range of alternative development plans, and that the agency, which was in charge of permitting the project, violated the National Environmental Policy Act by failing to analyze global greenhouse gas emissions from possible oil development on land adjacent to Willow. I mean, have you seen pictures of Willow? There is nothing out there. No, but don't worry, it's gonna be a problem. Anyway, Gleason's action has $1 billion implications for the state of Alaska and residents of the North Slope Borough. The borough itself and the North Slope Borough is expected to receive $1.2 billion in tax revenue and an additional $2.6 billion in federal pass-through revenue over the lifetime of the project. And the state expects Conoco to be eligible for more than $350 million in state tax deduction during the first years of development. But it's going to provide a bunch of jobs and 180,000 barrels of oil a day. Now, that'll take a few years to spin up. They don't expect that until 2030, but it's a big chunk, and it's good news. Of course, it's still got to go through the Ninth Circus, but we'll see what happens from there. It is what it is. It is what it is. We had a pretty good result from the Mat-Su general election, the municipal and general elections in the Mat-Su borough. Pretty good turnout. Not turnout. Let me rephrase that. The turnout was horrific, 9.53% turnout. The results were good, though. The results were pretty phenomenal overall, with the exception of losing Moki 2 in my district. But now, only a day before the November 7th elections, school board member Jacob Butcher vacated his seat after a move out of state. He was elected to the board last year, and his term is not set to expire until 2025. Announcement of the vacancy came on the same day the borough residents voted to re-elect two conservative board members, Ole Larson and Kathy McCullum. Butcher is part of the school board's conservative majority. His vacant seat will need to be filled by a legally qualified Mat-Su voter who resides in District 5, which is this district, and encompasses Big Lake to Point McKenzie. The deadline to apply for the seat is Wednesday, the 22nd, the day before Thanksgiving. So if any of you listeners are listening right now, looking at you, Melody, looking at you, Terry, any of you guys are living out in this neck of the woods in District 5 and you're looking to make a move and become part of that school board solution instead of school board problem, you have until Wednesday, the 22nd at noon to go out there and do it. Candidates will be interviewed by the school board during a public meeting on December the 6th, and then following the interviews, the sitting school board members will select the new member who will immediately be sworn in and expected to attend the December 6th regular meeting. School board member duties include preparing for and attending twice monthly meetings and occasional special meetings, studying all material presented with the agenda prior to attending the meetings, participating in the discussion of any items that come before the board, voting on motions and resolutions, and being prepared and willing to devote a sufficient amount of time to the issues. There is an application online at matsuk12.us is the school district's website, or you can give them a call at 746-9272, 746-9272. If you live in District 5, which is, Big Lake, Point McKenzie, like 6 Mile, KGB, and further out, you guys can all, anybody can go ahead and do it. Do it. And no, I am not signing up for it. Sorry. I am not signing up for it. 55 hours a week is enough for me. Okay. I'm just saying that's 55, 60. That's about my limit right there. I am not doing it, especially now that, all my kids are out of school and No, not going to do it. Sorry. But somebody out there would be a big, you guys would be a big help. So if you live out here in this neck of the woods, go off with you, be free, be part of the solution. And let's see what happens from there. What else did I want to talk? It's been kind of a slow news week, I'll be honest with you. This one final story I want to talk about, but I'm not going to get to it here until the next segment. Let me tell you what's coming up this week. This week, we're going to be working with tomorrow, obviously, is Brad Keithley. And Chris Story. Brad Keithley's coming in for the weekly top 3. I'm sure we're going to talk about the Willow decision because he's highlighted that several times as an important component of Alaska's resource development moving forward. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk to Chris Story, who sent me a text message. He sent me a text message on Saturday that says, next week's topic, backyard booty. I don't know exactly what that means, but this next week's tomorrow's topic is going to be backyard booty. I'm hoping he's talking about pirate treasure. That's all I can say. I hope that he's talking about pirate treasure for this week. On Wednesday, we should be joined. Because it's going to be Thursday for Mike Shower. He normally comes in on Wednesday, but it's going to be Thursday instead. On Wednesday, we're hoping to hear from Ben Carpenter. He's going to talk with us. He's got a new article coming out about the Janus decision and what that means, and we'll talk with him about that as well. We might actually have Calvin Schreggy on. He's got something new he wants to talk about. I know you're like, but Calvin is the enemy. I know. We might have Elise Galvin on. We might bring on some of these. I've had some of their people reach out to me, actually. It's been very interesting to see that maybe, just maybe, we might, and you got to respect him. If they're going to reach out to an outlet that is less than, we won't be mean, but we're definitely not on the same sheet of paper. This might make for some very, very interesting radio. So I'm hoping that this week we're going to get a start on some of that stuff, and we'll be talking about that as well. And again, hoping to have Dr. John Lott on this weekend, since we couldn't get him on last Friday. Friday. Since we didn't get him on this Friday. And, who knows? Maybe I'll be stuck at the house all week. Maybe it will just not stop snow. I'll be wishing Amazon could airlift me some food with their drone system here. That's what'll be going on. All right, we are coming up here on the break. So we're going to do that. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the problem with education in Anchorage. And there's a doozy. The school district there facing some problems. We're going to continue. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. David Boyle is our guest in hour 2 to talk about homeschooling. That's directly ahead.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Well, let me go back over here to the comment section. Oh, yeah. I knew somebody was going to say it. That's why I headed off that kind of discussion. Bill won't share the recipe. Bill, that's just not nice. It's just not nice, Bill. In many countries, the UN calls these low voter turnout elections invalid elections. I'm sorry. I'm just reading through some of these. I'm reading through some of the comments. Terry said she doesn't live in 5, but would happily apply if she did. Melody says she's in Ole's district. Sorry. Then somebody suggested my wife should sign up, and that I should sign up. It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. The slope is developed in the largest economy north of the 60th parallel. It's too late, says Jeannie. It's too late for that to go on. Yeah, I agree. Barbara's responding to something, and I don't know what, but she says maybe to set up OnlyFans pages. Is this in response to that news story that came out last week about the teacher who made $1 million on OnlyFans? Oh God. It's just one of those things. You were talking about Chris's comment about backyard booty. Oh my God, that is so funny. Maybe he meant to say backyard bounty, said McCall. No, Melody, I think he truly meant to say backyard booty. That's what they're doing. Get Libby Bacalar on. Oh, One Hot Mess Alaska. She's interesting. She's interesting for sure. Problems. They should just build a big pile of money on the Delaney Strip and set it on fire. That will solve the school's problems, says backyard booty and the teacher. There are 2 recipes I will not share. My homemade baked beans and the Berman caramel corn. My kids don't even have the caramel corn recipe. And here I shared my grandmother's secret pumpkin pie recipe with you, Bill. You won't even Oh, that hurts, man. That hurts. You know how much love I poured into it? I never did understand why people wouldn't share those kind of recipes either. I'm just like, what? You want to take it to your grave? Nobody else can enjoy it but you? That just seems a little, who cares if somebody else has a recipe that you have? I've got no problem sharing my grandmother's. Oh, it's just so pumpkin pie. I'm ready for some delicious Grandma Faye's pumpkin pie. It is absolutely delicious. But that's the last time I share it with you, Bill, because, man, I would like some of that bourbon caramel corn. Oh, man, that sounds delicious. I don't even drink bourbon, Oh, he says recipe contest and it comes out. Oh, see? Now you're making me work for it. Now I've got to go put a recipe contest together, which I said I was going to do, didn't I? I did say I was going to do it. Luckily, I came across the graphics and stuff that I used before here recently. I was digging through some files and I found it. So we will put a recipe contest together. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. It'll be fantastic. Don't you worry about it. We'll get it all ready. But Bill has just made, here it is, just so that you can see it. No, not that one. On the screen. Oh, stop moving. I'm going to have to refresh at the top of the hour. This thing is taking forever. Guilt me already. Okay. Recipe contest. It comes out. So there it is, folks. Black and white, clear as crystal. He stole fizzy lifting drinks. He bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized, so he gets nothing. I saw Willy Wonka too many times. But there it is. Black and white, clear as crystal. He's going to do it if I do the contest. So now it's on me. Donna says she wants a recipe contest with a recipe book for the chatsters. Oh, My. You guys just keep adding to my workload. Like I need to go do. If you guys want to take all the recipes and pull them all together and make your own book, you are welcome to do so. Welcome to do so. I will keep all the copyright though, so you guys proceed to. I gotta put shoes on my kids' feet, man. Those kids are big. They got big feet. Need big shoes. All right. So here we go. We're going to jump back into this. We got more coming up. David Boyle in hour 2, the Michael Duke Show, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Let's do it. Okay. Oh, man. We guilted Bill into releasing and revealing his secret recipe for the bourbon caramel corn, which he's going to do with our recipe contest, which I guess I'm going to have to crack out this week. So we'll be having a holiday recipe contest. We're going to have to run it through Christmas. We're not going to do it because we're 10 days away. Oh my God. We're 10 days away from Thanksgiving. You realize that right now, right? How does this happen? As I get older, the stuff just goes faster and faster. Thanksgiving is next week. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. That just struck me. Thanksgiving's next week, which means, by the way, that I won't be here on Thursday and Friday. And I might take the following Monday off too, because, hey, I mean, everybody needs a little bit of a wow. Wow. Okay. So anyway, that just struck me. So yeah, so this recipe contest is going to run through Christmas. We'll run it to Christmas. We'll do it the same way that we've always done it, which is we will put up a bunch of recipes. You post your favorite recipes for the holidays, your family recipes, your grandmother's secret recipes, your secret nobody knows, not even your kids' caramel bourbon corn recipe, whatever it is. And then the listeners will vote on it on Facebook. And we'll and then whoever gets the most votes is going to win, and we'll give them some beard curler coffee and a coffee mug, and it'll be fun stuff. Last time, Representative Sarah Vance actually won with her Kentucky Blue Ribbon Kentucky bourbon pie, which I didn't make. I was going to make, and then I don't know, I got waylaid on something. I'm going to have to go back and pull it out. Anyway, whoever wins the most votes, this is a democracy. So whoever gets the most votes on their thing is gonna win. So I guess I'm gonna have to break that out this week. Next week is Thanksgiving. How did that happen? I got distracted by all the snow. I wasn't even paying attention. Okay, latest story. Here we go. Before we go, David Boyle is going to be joining us in hour 2 this morning, and we're going to talk with him about homeschooling and COVID and everything else, which we touched on briefly last week, but now we're going to get a chance to talk to David about it. So this latest story, by the way, I forgot to give credit where credit was due. That story on the North Slope on the North Slope on the Willow Project was from James Brooks over at the Alaska Beacon. Sorry, James. I try to always give credit where credit's due, and I just realized that I didn't say your name, which you might want to reciprocate one day. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, Annie Berman over at the ADN has got an article that was published yesterday talking about the Anchorage school district. It's not this is what the headline reads, not a painless path ahead. Facing $95 million shortfall, Anchorage School District again warns of cuts. Oh, of course they do. How many days until the session starts? Oh, yeah, it's just around the corner. Yeah, that's it, The Anchorage School District is again facing a major budget shortfall that, of course, all the school officials could say could mean significant cuts to this is where they go to the state. Mommy, give me another cookie. I already ate the other one. Where the cuts might be are unknown. In February, right after the session starts, the district will propose a budget that the Anchorage School Board and the Anchorage Assembly will need to approve, but they are already estimating an approximate $95 million deficit for fiscal year 25. Possible school programs on the chopping block include the Ignite program for gifted students because, of course, use of the Dome Sports Complex, language immersion programs, fine art, and summer schools. Those are just a few of the things that could be listed on not the fact that their enrollment is declining, not the fact that they've got way too many buildings and they could consolidate. None of that. I mean, none of those. There's just, Now, Jarrett Bryant said there's just not a painless path ahead. However, partially as a result of the growing number of teachers and other staff vacancies, the district says it does have a sizable fund balance from this year's budget, about $59 million, which officials said could be used to help offset the debt. If you got $59 million left over from this year, then how is it I'm just trying to figure this out. You were crying, poor, pitiful me. You were crying, poor mouth about this year. Remember that? Remember the whole discussion about all the schools that they had to close and how things were just going to be bad? And remember all that? Now they have a $59 million fund balance from this year's budget. So which is it? Which is it? I mean, do you have a problem or do you not have a problem? I mean, you were crying the same thing about this year's budget. And all of a sudden you got almost a $60 million surplus. How does that work? Remember, this is the same school board and school superintendent. And, this is the same group of folks that took the one-time funding from the federal government over COVID funds and decided to spend it on reoccurring costs like teachers' salaries. This is the same group of people that were that short-sighted. So now all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, we're $95 million in the hole. I mean, I know we've got $60 million over here in the couch cushions, but $95 million in the hole. Yeah, I can just see how this is going to play out, folks. I can guarantee you there's going to be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. I mean, look at that opinion piece that was in the ADN here just the other day with that Brad Keithley and I talked about. Talking about how education was just going to crash and burn and it would be unsustainable and there's just no way anyone neglecting the education, it's failing Alaska's children. Remember, that was Elise Galvin last week. And you can just see that this is where things are going forward. Now, they're saying that their current number of staff vacancies in the district also factors into the lack of competitive benefits and pay, said Corey Haste, who is the head of the Anchorage Education Association, which again is another push for defined benefits. There it is. There are currently more than 300 open positions in the school district, a number that reflects stagnant employee benefits compared to other districts. The school board had to prioritize our educators in the budget so we can be more competitive. We're having a hard time hiring educators. We're having a hard time retaining them. Well, maybe if you actually saw that the dollars got into the classroom, it wouldn't be so frustrating for the teachers who are trying to teach the children. If you made sure that the actual dollars for education actually got into the classroom instead of being consumed by all of your administrators and the overhead in the schools and the physical assets and everything else. Even with the fund balance due to vacancies, board members say they anticipate that this year's budget will be particularly difficult to balance given years of flat state funding that haven't kept pace with. They've got their talking points down, don't they? Don't they just, this is, even with the fund balance due to vacancies, board members say they anticipate this year's budget will particularly be difficult to balance given years of flat funding that hasn't kept pace with inflation and a drying up of pandemic relief funds and one-time funding from the Alaska legislature that in recent years acted as a stopgap for increasing financial woes. I agree with Brian. Brian said earlier, what we should do is just put a big pile of money together on the Delaney Park Strip in downtown, and we should just set it on fire. That would do just as much to keep them warm in the short term as anything else. The estimated $95 million was a high, quote unquote, high level preliminary number, unquote, that could increase over the next few months based on a number of factors, including whether or not they feel like they need to put more pressure on the public during the legislative session. This is all key. This is the thing. This is all theater. They've aligned all the cycles to always occur when the legislature's arguing this stuff, to pink slip the teachers right at the very end, right when they're trying to ratify the school budgets and everything. This is all just theater. It's just. School board member Kelly Lesson says an increase in the district's pupil-teacher ratio was likely given the scale of the deficit. A higher ratio means larger class sizes and fewer educators. Okay, well, that's at least one way to fix it. And then it goes on to talk about how the federal funds are going to be done and there's no more COVID money. Without those federal relief funds, we're going to confront the reality of our financial situation. People have been telling you to face the reality of your financial situation for the last 2 years. Right? You knew this was coming. This wasn't a big surprise that the money was all of a sudden. It's like, oh my God, there's a crisis. Well, these are supposed to be educated people. They knew it was coming. Let's spend it on one-time expenditures. No, let's spend it on reoccurring expenditures instead. Out of time, The Michael Duke Show. Some of the stupidest stuff. I'll go ahead and drop you guys a link to this in the chat room. This is stupid stuff. All right. Sorry. Just got a little. Robert just said, what? Robert, I don't know. There must be something wrong with you. It's like drinking Folgers. Why would you do that? I will take a Costco chicken and pumpkin pie. Who has time to cook? I'd rather eat a bar of soap, right? Than, Yes, Sarah's was like a Kentucky ribbon, bourbon, pecan. I think it may have had chocolate, Donna Ardwin, Darna almost won last year with her. Donna said, I almost won with my tried and true. Oh, I'm going to have to refresh this because I've clicked the comment twice and it's not popping up on the screen. Guys, you're killing me. It's killing me. Come on. One more time. There we go. Sadly, I almost won last year with my tried and true find a friend who cooks well and show up with a nice bottle of wine. Almost did. Almost won. Is it freezing rain outside right now? Oh, God. It says it's 26 degrees here at the house. I don't know if I believe that. Yeah, both say 26, so it's got to be pretty close. So at least it's probably not raining here, but yeah. Yeah, everybody's trying to describe to me the whole El Nino, La Nina cycle out there. I don't know. Okay. What about the COVID money? Oh yeah, that they spent it. Jamie Allard will vote with the Democrats to increase school funding too. You think? It'd be interesting to see what they said. I've spoken with teachers who feel that without defined benefits, you can't attract teachers from outside, from other districts outside the state. And then Nicole says, "Oh, it's so slow. You can see it fading in. It's trying to get there. It's trying to. Oh, there it is." Then Nicole says, half the elementary schools in Anchorage are not even at half capacity. Come on, catch up with me. I'm refreshing here. As soon as we're done with this, I'm refreshing. This is nuts. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. I could see it coming. It's about to jump over there. Half the elementary schools in Anchorage aren't even at half capacity. At Tudor Elementary, half the classrooms are being used for storage. All right. I see David is in the green room. I am going to refresh the page right now because I can't take this anymore. So we'll be back. Look at that. 20 seconds, and here we are. We're ready to go. All right. I see David is in the green room. It's not the blue screen of death. When you still see the wavy lines, that means that I'm still there. I just had to refresh the page because, look, I click it, it pops right up. That's what's supposed to happen. Let's check in with David real quick. We'll see how the audio is before we go any further. Good morning, David. How are you doing this morning? I can't hear you, David. I can't hear you. Check your audio. Check your audio settings. The little 3 dots there. Check your audio to make sure your microphone is being used. There should be 3 little dots next to your name there, or next to on your picture there should be 3 little dots up in the corner. You could try and reconnect as well. Sometimes that helps. If you want to reconnect, I'll remove you and kick you from the room, or you can close it and try and reconnect. I'll go ahead and put him back in the green room. I won't kick you yet. Edit. There we go. He's going to reconnect. He hears me. I just don't hear him. Well, he's not muted on my end. If he's muted on his end. So we'll see what gap is. There we go. I see he just popped back in.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. See? Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on? Yes, we have. And it works good.
Yes, I did.
It works good. All right, David, you all ready to go?
You betcha, Michael. Sure am.
All right, good. David Boyle is going to be our guest. David, I'll put you back in the green room. Don't eat all the donuts while you're there, okay? Those are expensive. I paid a lot of money for those. We're going to be back here. We're 1 minute out. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, everything in radio. We're about to jump into it. When I looked at the skies off in this past season, it looked just like that. The blue stuff rotating around? Yeah, that's my background. All right, my friends. Well, here we go. We're going to jump into it and get it all done. Hour 2 is dead ahead. David Boyle is our guest, the Michael Duke Show. Let's enjoy it. I'm ready. Bill already ate all the donuts. Of course he did.
Whoa, buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the interwebs at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only live stream, the podcast, and so much more. And also, of course, live around the world or live around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. That's where we're at right now. Plus, you can get it on the podcast. Plus, you can find it on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and everywhere else that I can plug into. It's amazing. Welcome back to the program. Are you ready to go? Hour 2 is right now, and we're joined today by education advocate David Boyle, who we touched last week briefly on his latest article, which is in Must Read Alaska, which talks about the one of the silver linings of COVID and the pandemic. And that was, of course, the increase in homeschooling and the interest in alternative forms of schooling, whether it's homeschooling or teacher shares or all different kinds of stuff. He's got a piece out in Must Read, which I'm going to go ahead and link in the chat room right now. You can go read it right now if you want to go to Facebook or YouTube or wherever, and I've got a link there, or you can just go search it up on Must Read. The article is entitled, "Since COVID Revealed Much to Alaska Parents, Families Flock to Homeschooling and Correspondence." David Boyle joins us this morning from an undisclosed remote location somewhere in Colorado, I think is where he's at today. Good morning, David. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, Michael. I'm at 10,200 feet altitude in beautiful Leadville, Colorado.
Well, appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on and join us. I know you're traveling. Congratulations on your granddaughter, I guess. You had a beautiful bouncing babe. I mean, you didn't do anything, but you had you have had a granddaughter now.
Yes, we had a wonderful, beautiful little baby, a granddaughter, and 6 pounds, 9 ounces, and she has 10 fingers and 10 toes, and just gorgeous little girl. And we're really glad to welcome into our family.
Well, I'm glad, and congratulations to you and your family and your kids and everybody else. So it's always good. I remember the first birth of my first grandchild was my only grandchild at this point, but the birth of my grandchild was an amazing time. I'm glad which was also in Colorado. So I think I was there for that, and that was exciting, and it's an amazing thing. So, David, let's get started and talk about this. I have often said that one of there's really been 2 major silver linings from the pandemic. One was the embracing of remote work, because I've been teleworking for 10 years now. And really, it really became an embraceable thing. And I think it's amazing. And I'm glad that people have come to understand the amount of freedom and personal responsibility that comes from that, and how, it really has transformed our workforce. I think that's important. But also, the second thing is the discovery of, kind of the whole attitude around schools. Parents were all of a sudden exposed to the idea that, a couple things. First of all, they discovered that schooling on their own was not as hard as they were told. They were told that homeschooling just too rough. You're not smart enough to homeschool. You just don't have the education. You don't have the knowledge. You're not a teacher. You just can't do it. The second thing they discovered is that although many of the organizations, and I'm not talking about individual teachers, but I'm talking more about the education industry, the education industrial complex, although they keep saying that it's all about the children, it turned out instead it really wasn't all about the children. It was all about social justice. It was about, pay wage. It was about, them holding the citizenry over a barrel to get what they want before they went back to school in many locations around the country. Alaska was, no different in some areas, and they have really discovered this. So let's walk through what your article talks about, which I guess is, again, the beginning of that silver lining.
Well, as you said, Michael, the silver lining of the COVID pandemic is the fact that parents actually found out, looking over their kids' shoulders when they were doing virtual schooling from the local school districts online, they actually found out what their children were being taught. And they were astounded and actually very disappointed. They also found out what their children were not being taught. And, the distance learning from, for example, the Anchorage School District, they weren't prepared to do it. They hadn't done it before. And it was a pretty significant failure on their part. Not just the Anchorage School District, but many other school districts. And as a result of that, parents decided, I think let's try to homeschool our kids. It can't be that hard. And come to find out, actually in the elementary grades, it's not very difficult to homeschool your child. You could teach your child how to read, and there are a lot of online programs. The number of online homeschooling programs has just multiplied unbelievably in the last 5 to 10 years. I remember 10 years ago, there were very few programs online to help parents teach their students. One of those was the Khan Academy, Khan, Khan Academy, which was started by just a software developer to teach his nephews and nieces because they weren't learning in school as well. But anyway, if you want some help, go to khanacademy.org. And it's an amazing website to help you teach your children. And your children can actually probably just use that page and be supplemented by the parental guidance. So anyway, we've gained from 12,500 pre-pandemic to almost 19,000 homeschool students. Now that's only the 12 largest homeschool programs in the state of Alaska. There are 34 programs. Some of them have like 5 students, 15 students. So in my article, I didn't really count them as such because the big number is 19,000 in the 12 largest homeschool programs. And that's a 52% increase from the pre-pandemic school year. And right. By the way, Alaska has the best homeschool program in the entire nation. And that's probably due to the geography of Alaska and the uniqueness of Alaska and the remoteness of a lot of students in Alaska.
Well, yeah, exactly. And again, necessity is the mother of invention, right? I mean, that's what we faced here. I mean, one of the pilot homeschool programs in this state was started by the Galena City School District. I mean, Galena, all the way out of Galena, and they created the IDEA program, which started, in Fairbanks and spread out from there. My oldest daughter, who's now 30 years old. That's hard to believe that I'm that old. But she was kindergarten. She started out in the first year of IDEA. We were one of the first 25 families or something that started with that thing. And IDEA has grown. They are, in fact, the largest homeschooling, independent homeschooling program in the state with like 7,400 students or something like that. And I mean, I remember when they crossed the 3,000 threshold, they were ecstatic. Now they're at over double that. And it just keeps going on over and over and over again. People were coming into the chat room. This is in probably late 2020, early 2021, and saying, well, we never tried homeschooling. Now we're homeschooling. Now our students are, at one point, the guy said, my daughter's already done with the school year. She did all of the school year in like 4 months. She loved it. She loved doing it. And now we're working on other stuff and ancillary stuff and extracurricular things and things like that. Parents were shocked to discover it wasn't as hard as they keep being told. They keep being told you couldn't possibly do it.
Well, that's the education industry speaking, as you well know. And by the way, you don't have to be a certificated teacher and know the fundamentals of teaching in order to educate your own child. I, for one, would have had a really difficult time because, with my children, I think familiarity kind of breeds contempt in some regards.
Yeah.
But I would have put my children, if I'd have known that much about it back when my children were in K-12 schools, I would have put them maybe in a correspondence program or a learning pod with some other students and parents. But, the other thing about a correspondence student, the state doesn't really fund a correspondence student like they do a traditional neighborhood school student. In other words, the state says the correspondence student is only worth 90% of the usual student allotment. Now, that should be raised to 100% because, as you well know, these correspondence students, they're saving the state loads and loads of money. And I think the program ought to be increased. And we could, actually save the Anchorage School District a lot of money because they only fund so much for a correspondence student. For example, let's say the Frontier School, Charter School, or the Family Partnership School in the Anchorage School District. Those students get about half of what a regular student gets. And the cost in the Anchorage School District, by the way, is about $20,000 per student today.
Right.
And in the family partnership, that per student cost is only half. So
right.
If I were in the Anchorage School District and I were, the administrator there and the finance people and the superintendent, I would want to dramatically increase the number of correspondence students in my school so that I can take that extra money. And
I would be duplicating what Family Partnership is doing. If you could do it for half, why wouldn't you be duplicating that in many schools? You've got schools. Somebody just said, like, for example, Tudor Elementary is only half full. They're using half the classrooms for storage. Why wouldn't you create another charter school like Family Partnership, if it's only half? And again, places like IDEA, they're doing it for a quarter of what they're doing it for in these other schools. I mean, why wouldn't you emulate that? Well, the problem is, I think, this is me, I think the problem is that it means that they would receive less money for administration and overhead and school and all this other kind of stuff. It's the education industry that's against the efficiencies that we're talking about.
Well, let's say, Michael, the family partnership per student cost, which is, by the way, it's a correspondence school now in the Anchorage School District. It's just a little over $10,000, and the Anchorage School District per student cost is $20,000. So if I'm the superintendent and the school board in the Anchorage School District, I want to increase the number of students in the family partnership program and the other, like Frontier Charter School, which is a correspondence school, because I can take that surplus money that I have for them, let's say 10,000 to 20,000, and use it to grow my bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a growth of the system rather than it really being about the children, which is what we keep hearing all the time. Oh, it's about the children, which is why they always want the money. Hold the line, David. I know you want to say something, but we're going to hold that thought for just a second. We're going to be back in just a moment. David Boyle is our guest, senior contributor for Must Read Alaska, education advocate. We're going to continue to talk about some of the things that are going on in the school district with alternative education. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
In the break right now, David Boyle is our guest. Harold says, we're 100% public school advocates. Socialization is incredibly important for young people. And this is part of the misconception that somehow homeschooling kids don't get socialized, which is completely false. My kids were socialized all the time. Many people are interacting, are taking their homeschooling kids to a variety of outside classes, courses, events, competitions for school, for music, and everything else. That is I think that's one of the largest misnomers or misconceptions about homeschooling is that somehow your kids aren't socialized in that regard, David.
You're correct. And by the way, Michael, I'm not so sure I'd want my kid to be socialized in the current public school system. I've said for years, we're going to start reaping the benefits of the public school system and the university system. And you look at it right now, just like the COVID pandemic did for homeschooling in Alaska, these pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian demonstrators, not just in the university systems, but in the K-12 systems in America, we're reaping the benefits now of what they have been indoctrinated into. And boy, Marxism, socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it, the university systems are showing their true colors and what the college professors have indoctrinated them into. And by the way, that's happening also, maybe not as visible or transparent, but it's also happening in the K-12 systems throughout the nation.
I mean, that kind of stuff is frustrating, and we're going to get into that here in the next segment. I want to talk a little bit about what you mentioned earlier on, where parents all of a sudden started realizing what their kids were being taught. But it's a shocking goal, and it really, what was shocking, I think, the most brazen example of this, of course, happened in West Virginia during the race there when Terry McAuliffe got up in front of the people, the constituency, and brazenly told them that you're not qualified to figure out what your kids need to be taught. We're qualified. Showing the whole, we're the only ones who are smart. We're smarter than you, and we know how to raise your kids, and we know how to teach your kids, and that kind of stuff. And that, of course, lost him the election. To Glenn Youngkin. And that was a huge component of it. But that was just, he said the quiet part out loud, the part that many people, not all, but many people in the education establishment feel. And it's especially what the education industry believes.
Right. And that was Youngkin, his big win in Virginia. And he wasn't up this last election, but I believe he comes up again next year. And the Democrats, or the liberals, let's say, have been applauding the fact that they retained the Senate and they took over the House in Virginia. But I don't think the results are that clear yet. And, the problem with Virginia, as you're probably well aware, Northern Virginia controls the results in the elections and statewide elections.
Right.
And that's just made of federal government bureaucrats and contractors. And, they know where their bread is buttered.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Youngkin cannot run again, says Donna. Virginia's governor has a one-term limit, which is great. But hopefully, somebody else continues to step up. But I think that was the best thing that happened there was, a cracking of the lid, peeling back the curtain a little bit to show you how many of these people felt. And that was the reaction, of course, across the country. We had all these school board meetings across the country where parents were outraged, and then they were called domestic terrorists and everything else, all this other kind of stuff, simply for caring about what their children were going to learn. And I think that was the beginning of the end for many of these situations that we're seeing across the country. Okay, we're about to rejoin. We're going to continue talking with David Boyle here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, follow, do all that kind of stuff. Let's get to it. Here we go. David Boyle continues with us right now. Let's do it. All right, welcome back to the program. We're continuing now with David Boyle, senior contributor for Must Read Alaska, an education advocate. We're talking about his latest piece in Must Read, talking about discoveries since COVID, how it revealed a lot to Alaska parents. And since then, Families have flocked to homeschooling, correspondence, and to other forms. This is really more about alternative forms, right, David? I mean, it's, we talk about homeschooling systems like Raven and Idea and Cyberlinks and things like that, but it's also about charter schools, Montessori schools, learning pods, teacher shares. I mean, all these different things. The numbers, when you said 53% increase in the state of Alaska, that was simply to students who went into a system. If the parents decided to build their own curriculum and do their own thing and use Khan Academy and the Danica Keller Math Doesn't Suck program or all these other if they wanted to build their own thing out there, they could do it. They're not even counted in these numbers, right?
No, that's correct. You're correct, Michael. There's a large group of parents in the state of Alaska called independent homeschoolers, and they don't want to be connected to the government for any funding or any control, because they believe once the government funds you, then they have strings to be able to come back and control you through regulations, et cetera. And I don't. It's not an underground group, but it's very hard to find the numbers of independent homeschoolers in Alaska. Maybe one of your listeners knows, and they could put it on the Facebook chat room. But I'm unaware of it. I don't know how to find it. It's actually even difficult on the state's website, the Department of Education Early Development's page, to find out anything about homeschooling. Excuse me, correspondence schools they call them, but. They have a list of them, but you can't find much data. You have to know which correspondence school is associated with which particular school district. Then you have to go to that school district, and then you can find out if you know the name of the homeschool. You go into the school district on the page, find that the homeschool correspondence school. Then you can find out the funding. Excuse me again, for that homeschool per student funding. And that's where I got my figures. It's very difficult to find. You have to know where to go. And oh, by the way, the Alaska STAR test, the summative test that the students in Alaska took in the first week of April. Yes. The results are still not out, and they will not be out until next month sometime, probably, maybe, almost. But what good is a test like that if the parents don't know within a couple, 3 weeks how their student performed on the test compared to other students in the state? I mean, I don't know what the problem is. I have not talked to the department about that. I'm just going to sit and wait for the results, like all the parents have to do, to find out how well their student has done on the state standardized test.
Well, and again, without those metrics, it's hard to judge how things are going and what's happening with that and what's going on. The good news is, in the last segment, you were talking about how the homeschooling students are only worth 90% of what the regular students are. Donna Ardwin in the chat room says HB 165, which is coming up in this next session, is going to raise the amount for correspondence students to 1.215 times the BSA to account for that automatic weighing that all the other students get. So hopefully we'll start seeing, 100% of that money coming in there, which will be good, again, for parents to be able to make those choices. But again, you're not required to do any of that stuff in the state of Alaska. As you said, Alaska has one of the freest systems in the country, and I think that's a good thing. If people want to create their own, I remember back when Terry and I were first considering homeschooling. This is when our first daughter was not even of kindergarten age yet. We had talked with several people who were independents essentially, and they'd done things like unit learning, which is where the student, discovers one things they like. I mean, I don't know, octopuses or space travel. And they basically built an entire curriculum of language, English, math, science, everything around that one thing that the kid really liked, so that they talked about the science of octopus, and they talked about in the language, they talked about writing stories about octopus and the verbiage and where the word came from and the name, and they wrapped it all up. And that was there's so many different options out there. And people just, I guess I don't care if you send your kids to public schools, if you want to send your kids to public schools, but there should be enough choice out there for parents to be able to make that decision.
Right. And Alaska has quite a few choices. They should have more choices. For example, education savings accounts would be a great idea, where the state keeps your money in an account there, and you pick a vendor to educate your child, or several vendors, or whatever activities that are approved by the state. And then the state reimburses you for that particular vendor. That would be wonderful. But the correspondence program is very similar to that. By the way, we talked about funding for correspondence students, only 90% today of a regular neighborhood school student, but they're only entitled to the state funding. This Anchorage School District doesn't have to provide any local funding to that student, and or federal funding for that matter. Some state districts do provide local funding to correspondence school students, but they're not required to. And I think the state should make that a requirement. If a student is a correspondence student in a local school district, they should get an appropriate amount of state funding, and maybe some federal funding if their student, let's say, falls under a certain federal law for that, like for Title IX and special education. And McKinney-Vento, which is homeschool, the money that the school districts get for homeless students. So there are other things. It's kind of like you can't eat the whole apple at once. You have to keep a couple of bites and keep going. But we're falling behind the rest of the nation as far as let's say school choice programs go. Iowa, for example, has a wonderful program now in education savings accounts. Kid can go to any school they want and get reimbursed, be a private or parochial school, get reimbursed for the cost of that through the state funding. Florida has had a education savings accounts. The leading state was Arizona, led the nation several years ago by first proposing the education savings accounts. And I believe still in Arizona, though, it's limited to like low minority children, military dependent children. But in Iowa, it's a universal education savings account.
Right.
And that would be done. By the way, you're probably aware there is a lawsuit in the state of Alaska challenging the correspondence program. Interestingly enough, I read the entire document, which is about 22 pages. The plaintiffs, this is very interesting. The plaintiffs, guess what, are teachers. There are no students in there that are plaintiffs. There are no parents that are non-teachers that are plaintiffs. And reading the entire document, the lawsuit, nothing in there. They'd never address student success or achievement. It's all about taking money away from the public school industry. And it was rather amusing to read. However, we know how the Alaska court system goes. It'll go to the first court, can't even remember what it's called now, but and then it'll probably be appealed by either party to the Supremes.
Yeah, to the Superior Court and then on to the Supreme Court. You made an interesting comment early on, which I think, again, was not just an Alaskan issue, but was a national issue as well, is that as the COVID pandemic broke out and all these kids transitioned to remote learning, which was a disaster in many districts because they just weren't prepared for that kind of stuff. Which, I mean, I guess is understandable in that they were not, they just simply weren't ready for it. But one of the fringe effects of that was the fact that all of a sudden parents were standing behind their students as these students were being taught, watching on the little screens of the iPads or the computers or whatever. And all of a sudden they were realizing that their kids were not being taught, especially in K through 6, they were not being taught the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic, accurate thought, logic, reason. They weren't being taught any of those things. Instead, they were being indoctrinated with social issues and social values instead of the basics of, the foundations of what they needed. And that was a huge eye-opening thing for many parents.
It was, and that's what encouraged and actually activated many parents to take their children rather out of the local public schools and homeschool them because they didn't like what they saw. And I don't blame them. And they became really angry. And by the way, because you've got SNOWPOCALYPSE going on right now, guess what? Those children that are being homeschooled are still learning today. And those kids, unfortunately, that are going to, let's say, virtual online learning through the local school district, it's probably very problematic for them, just like it was last year in the Anchorage School District when it was closed for an entire week in the month of December. So the kids that are homeschooled now, they're just continuing to learn today versus, unfortunately, like I said, the kids that are not being homeschooled, they're having a difficult time, as the teachers are, with virtual learning, remote learning, education. I don't think there's many teachers, I don't know of any, that probably prefer to do online instruction versus actually classroom instruction. And the other thing that you mentioned about parents looking over their shoulder and finding out what their children were learning, guess what? If you want to go to a school, visit a school, your child's school and classroom, it has to be approved by the local school district and the principal of that school. You have to set up a time, and we know what happens. You can't just walk in and visit your child's classroom, because now it's going to be totally structured. The teacher's going to ensure that lesson plan is very vibrant and educational, and that they're not teaching anything that they probably shouldn't be, like social justice.
Right. Yet when they were being taught remotely, it was kind of just the everyday, here's what we teach every day kind of thing. And many experts have come out and said we lost so much teaching in those 2 or 3 years, first 2 years of the pandemic, basically setting a whole generation back a significant amount of time. And instead of learning the lessons from some of the homeschooling systems or things like that, they were trying to this is what killed me. They were trying to reinvent the wheel. Instead of taking a page out of the programs like Raven or Idea or something like that, they're trying to create things out of whole cloth. And none of it was working as well as these tried and true systems that have been going on for 20, in Idea's case, 20 years. Why couldn't they just take a page out of that book and work it? Why did they have to create something all new?
Well, that's what bureaucracies do. They always want to reinvent the wheel, even though the wheel's been out there for decades in Alaska. And also the public school system, they kind of believe that one size fits all. In other words, you got 25 kids in a classroom. They all are going to learn the same, whether it's whole language or, unfortunately, whole language or phonics. But they're all going to learn the same. They're all the same. So we're going to treat them all the same, push them through the classroom to the next classroom, whether they've learned anything or not. So that's the thing that I think the educators learn in their school colleges of education. And the problem is, this is the background they have, and they've always done it that way before. Therefore, it's very difficult for them to change their mindset and say, hey, look over here. This is really working over here in homeschools. Let's do what they're doing. Not reinvent something, hire more IT people to do our virtual learning program, and have to train the teachers on how to do online learning, let's say, education. But you mentioned earlier in a segment about the cost in the Anchorage School District, and I think you were relating to an article in the Anchorage Daily News. But I listened to the Finance Committee hearing in the Anchorage School District, I guess about a week ago, and very, very interesting. They suspect one of the big costs in the Anchorage School District, by the way, is benefits.
Right.
Now, they said the benefits in the Anchorage School District, $174 million. $174 million. Most of that is for health insurance, which is obtained through the teachers union. And now they're going to increase it, apparently, in their draft contract they have with the teachers union that you can go find. And it's also in an article on Must Read, not my article, but Suzanne Downing's article. There's a link in there. They want to increase their health insurance. So let me see. I got it. Oh, it's going to go from $1,750 a month per member, that's like 3,000 members, to $1,900 a month. Now that's for 12 months. That's a little under $23,000 a year per teacher union member, which is not just teachers, it's nurses, psychologists, counselors, etc. So here they're increasing the cost to their school district when they admit we've got a huge budget hole that we dug due to using one-time funding from the federal government.
Right.
And,
which for reoccurring costs, which we shouldn't have done, but we did it anyway, and blah, blah, blah. It's we'll let's dissect that here in just a second here, David. David Boyle is our guest. We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show continues. David Boyle is our guest, senior contributor for Must Read Alaska, and education advocate here in the South Central area. We'll continue with David in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, David Boyle, our guest here on the Michael Duke Show. Thanks for coming on board and joining us. Where's David? He's located. He's got a lot of sunlight. David is down in Leadville, Colorado right now. He just attended the birth of his granddaughter, so he's traveling right now, but was kind enough to jump on with us this morning to discuss it. David, you guys actually bit the bullet and helped out with your grandkids, right? I mean, you actually decided to start doing some homeschooling and learning pod stuff with your grandkids, right?
Well, not really, but I have my first grandchild is 12 years old now. But we have not homeschooled them or participated in that, but we send my grandson, they're in Alamogordo, New Mexico. My son-in-law is in the Air Force, Holloman Air Force Base there. But we pay for my grandson to go to private school there. And he also went to private school in England when they were stationed in England. And wonderful schooling over there, unbelievable. And it was a regular, well, let me go back. It was a regular school in England, but it was a very good school. He's in a private school now in Alamogordo, New Mexico. He has 13 students in his class. The teachers are wonderful. My daughter gets, if he's having a problem or he's doing well, on a daily basis, they'll send her a text or an email on how well Aaron is doing or what some of his problems are. And she can talk to him anytime. It's unbelievable, the communication back and forth between the teacher, the classroom teacher, and the parent, which I don't see much of that at all in the public school system. He's learning a classical education. He started Latin in 4th grade. He's in 7th grade now with Latin as well. He's learned about the Greek philosophers in 4th grade. He hasn't learned anything about restorative justice or social justice or critical race theory or diversity, equity, and inclusion. And guess what? You know what the cost of that education is, Michael? $5,400 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, $5,400 a year.
For a full year. All right. Well, that's a fantastic education for that amount of money, especially a classical education, which I think is what we're really missing in most of our public schools here in the state of Alaska. It's it's horrific to watch what's going on and to see what's happening with the outcomes of the education in the state. And homeschooling has traditionally been significantly higher in the aptitudes and the outcomes than any of the public school systems that we've seen so far.
Yes. The problem with comparing, it's not apples and oranges, as the educators love to use that analogy. It's not apples and oranges when you compare results in the state test, for example, from a correspondence student to a traditional public school student, in that in the state law of Alaska allows any parent to opt their child out of standardized test. And I think that's a good thing. So unfortunately, like I said in my article, there's just a very small number in the Mat-Su Central School, which is a correspondence school, homeschool. Very small number of parents that have their children take standardized tests, compared to the numbers in the traditional public schools in the Mat-Su. So you can't really compare academic results, unfortunately. Now, personally, if I'm a parent, I would really like to know how my student is doing on a standardized test, and compare that my student to maybe the rest of the students in that school district.
Right. Well, and as parents, we had similar choices. We were given the choice, and we did put the kids through some of the standardized testing, but not all. We did want to see where they fell, what they were doing. So we did it probably maybe 3 times out of the, you get it for whatever it is, 10, 12 times that you get a chance to put the kids in there. And we did it 2 or 3 times with each child just to see where they were at. But yeah, we didn't attend the standardized testing. In fact, the number, it was less than 1%. Was it 0.67% of the students in the Mat-Su Central correspondence? So like 8 out of 1,400 students took the test. So it was pretty low. Parents are like, we're not having any of this.
Right. Yeah, it was 8 out of about 1,200 students in the correspondence program, less than 1%. And in contrast to that, 79% of the students in the Mat-Su district overall took the Alaska STAR standardized test. The test results that we don't have yet until December of this year. But anyway, that's up to the parent. I'm glad they give them the option to do that, but I would prefer my children to take that test just to see how well they are doing. And I'm sure most correspondence students would do much better than the traditional public school students.
Because historically they have, is the bottom line on that. Although I find it hard to believe that it takes months and months and months. We can get an election result in a week, and somehow on these standardized tests with multiple choices and a few written things, they can't figure it out over 6, 7, 8 months. It's insane. All right, well, hold the line for a second.
Michael, let me say one thing.
We're going to jump back in. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we're continuing now with David Boyle, who is our guest, senior contributor for Must Read Alaska, education advocate. We were just talking during the break about the scholastic aptitude and the fact that students were not. A lot of the homeschooling students weren't taking the test and everything else. David, you wanted to say one more thing before I so rudely interrupted you with a return to radio here.
Yeah, I see my little name down there with senior contributor. I guess that means I'm kind of old. But
yeah,
anyway,
like
you compared, the Alaska STAR standardized test results won't be out hopefully until next month, which kids took the test in early April, and you do a comparison to the election results. I kind of chuckled at that, but the standardized test results are probably a lot more valid than the election results. So maybe that's why it takes a little bit longer, Michael.
Well, I mean, the standardized testing is mostly it's multiple choice, right? I mean, it's mostly multiple choice with a few essay questions and things like that. Why they couldn't run that through a machine to figure it out, why it would take 8 months to get those results back and collate those results is, I mean, it's beyond me why it takes so long, other than the fact that maybe they want to hide the results into the next school year so that you can't, if you decide, oh, this is not working for my kids because we took the test in April, and you won't know till halfway through the next school year what's going on. I mean, I hate to be cynical, but that's kind of how I feel about it right now. It's pretty crazy. So, David, go ahead.
They might want to just hold them off until after the next legislative session is over.
Yeah, don't give them any ideas, David. Do not give them any ideas because they would be more than happy to do that. So we're down. This is the final segment of this hour and today's show. So I want to give you a little bit of an opportunity here. to say, what do you think is the solution? I mean, you're seeing these trends. These trends are all moving towards people taking a bigger interest in their kids' education, taking a more hands-on approach, whether it's through a correspondence program, or whether it's through independent learning, or even, charter schools, Montessori schools, teacher pods or teacher share pandemic. I mean, I read a story here a couple months ago about a teacher who had worked in the Anchorage School District who just threw up her hands and said, I'm done with this. And she started a teacher share program where she would basically sell her services to families who wanted them to come in. And she said she was making more now than she ever did as a teacher. I mean, there's obviously find a need, fill a need. There's an opportunity here. And many of these parents are, moving in that direction. But what do you think is the solution for the state as a whole, and for the districts, local districts in particular?
Well, I think the entire solution is a variety of different programs. For example, you walk into a grocery store, you look at the cereal aisle or even the dog food aisle, and you can pick whatever you want for your children or for your dog in either case. But grow the charter school programs. The problem with the charter school programs, as I'm sure you're aware, is that they're controlled by the school district. They have to, approve the charter. And if you're a group of parents want to start a charter school in Alaska, guess what? At least in Anchorage, you have to put together a business plan that's probably 120 plus pages long. Has to be approved by the school district. On the other hand, if you want to open a neighborhood school, you just float a bond, build a building, and open it up. We need more vibrancy in the charter school program. We need more authorizers. And by that, I mean those people, organizations that are allowed to approve the start of a charter school. In Alaska, only the local school district can approve a charter school. There was a bill several years ago in the legislature that got just a few hearings on it. It's all to allow the state to start a charter school, the State Board of Education. That'd be great. The university system to start a charter school. I think the professors and the staff over there would love that as well for their kids. A nonprofit or a local government could start a charter school. We need to take it out of the hands of the local monopolies and let it flourish. And I think it would flourish just as much as you see right now in the correspondence schools. And as Donna said earlier, there's a bill to increase the state funding for correspondence students through the formula to, I think she said 1.25%. I think that's another great way to enlarge the correspondence program. The biggest way to improve education in Alaska is to get the information out to the parents, particularly the minority and low-income parents, about what is available and what they can do. And, the education industry knows one thing: information is power, and they hide it from parents. Yeah. And as you said before, the pandemic, guess what? That showed the parents what the information their kids were learning.
Yeah, no, they showed their whole card, and not just here in Alaska. I mean, the most egregious one was in California, where the entire teachers union would not come back to work until they had these social justice mandates that were met, that were part of the problem. I mean, that was the most egregious example in the country, but it was happening all over the various states as well. We were seeing this foot dragging going on and everything else. And I agree with you. I think that giving the authority to various entities outside of the school system, I mean, that's like saying, do you want to create competition to your own system that you're benefiting from? And of course, the answer to that is no. Other states have the opportunity for, organizations, community organizations, and nonprofits and non-governmental agencies to start their own charter schools as well. And I think that's something that we should have available here in the state of Alaska. We should be able to do that. And whether it is a charter school or a Montessori or a teacher share or whatever it is, there's always another option. And people, I think, are coming around to the fact that it's not as hard as they were told. Which we're continually sold a bill of goods by the power of the be, that somehow what we want, or what the majority of people want, is somehow wrong or bad or too hard for us simple folk to figure out. And they've been discovering that that's just not necessarily the case.
No, you're spot on with that. It's not near as hard, particularly in the elementary school children. I don't think it's hard to teach the kids how to read. I don't think it's hard to teach them how to do basic math and foundational math, your times tables, etc. It's not hard to teach them science. You can go online and you can find science projects galore for your children to learn, those that they might really take a particular interest into, be it either the physical sciences or the life sciences. There are so many things out there now, particularly due to the internet, that your child can really learn. Like I said earlier, Khan Academy is one of the best as far as I'm concerned. I wish it had been there when my children were in school at earlier ages, Khan Academy. But we just have to keep pressing. The unfortunate thing is we have a legislature that is controlled pretty much by the education industry. Very few things get through there that are good. The correspondence program was one of the good things. There's also the education tax credit that you probably are aware of, where if you work for a company, they can get a tax credit for contributing to a school. For example, you can contribute to a private school so much money, and you can get like a reduction in your corporate taxes from the state. There are not many people that are aware of that as well. So those are other things that we need to pay attention to. Just keep on pressing. It's all about the kids. Every kid is unique and different. They all have various learning styles. And the public school system has a difficult time as a monopoly tailoring education to each individual student.
Oh, I could tell you as a homeschooling parent of 5 children, we had 5 different learning styles. 5 different learning styles. I mean, what worked for one kid, and we thought, oh, we got this whipped. And then we went on to the next kid, and it was like, whoa, we don't have this whipped. And we had to figure it out. And each child is absolutely different. Each one works at their own pace. And, I'm happy that each one of them could just, had the reading and writing and arithmetic, those basics, and that understanding and that, kind of analytical thought. That's what we need. We need that in the, in each one of our students. And I think it's fantastic. David Boyle, our guest for today. David, final thoughts here, 30 seconds, no longer.
Well, Michael, a lot of people don't think education is very important in the K-12 system in particular, but I've said for years, it's probably the most important thing we can focus on, and it's about the future. And today we are seeing the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, et cetera, problems that have been brought to us by the public school system and the university system. And you can do it, parents. Yep. Just try it. Work with other parents. Start a pod.
Absolutely. I got to say, to quote the philosopher Whitney Houston, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. We just got to teach them well. All right, David, thank you so much. Folks, we're out of time. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, Michael.
All right, Dave, any final thoughts since we're out now? Anything else you want to leave here?
No, I have to look at this teacher union contract. It's basically a rehash that, all they've done is increase the salaries, and they've increased the health. The health benefits are real big. As you know, there's a bill in the legislature now to put local governments and school districts on the state health insurance plan. That would save hundreds of millions of dollars to local school districts and to the state as well.
Yeah, we talked about that. The consolidation of that would be $155 million, I think, was the number that came out at one point.
It might even be higher than that now that it's going to cost $23,000 per teacher union member in the Anchorage School District alone. So, and I think the state's insurance program is about $15,000 to $17,000. I'm not positive on that number, but it's much less than what we're going to be paying in the city of municipality of Anchorage for health insurance.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to be paying attention to mostly educational issues in the coming legislature session.
All right.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate what you do. Oh, by the way, I have another daughter. In King Salmon, Alaska. Oh, and she's been out there about 5 years, and we're paying to send my granddaughter out there to a private school out there because the school just sucks. It is. Yeah, it's run by a church. It's a private school, and they do self-paced learning out there. And she's doing well. We never put her in the public school out there.
Well, good for you. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on board, David. Thank you for being part of it today. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. And congratulations with the birth of your granddaughter as well. So thanks so much. All right. Well, folks, that does it for today. We are out of time. Tomorrow, Brad Keithley and Chris Story will be joining us. We'll continue with that. That's all coming up tomorrow. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense, Liberty Based, Free Thinking Radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.
We'll be
you.